All right. So my name is Natalie Roy. I'm the Executive Director of AgriSafe, and joining me today is Linda Manuel, and she is a Community Health Director with AgriSafe. And we are hosting our first informational event about the Total Farmer Health Coach. And like clockwork, you can hear a lot of noise outside with people doing something in the yard. So I apologize for that, but we all are working in unique places now with COVID, and so please bear with that noise in the background if you can. We are recording the time together today because we have folks that are interested in this work but not able to join us for the live discussion or hiring event. And we called it a hiring event because we are in the mode at AgriSafe to expand our team, and we're doing it through a very innovative approach through what we call the coaching model, and we'll explain a little bit more what that means. Just to give you a background at AgriSafe, if you're new, by the way, can you see that slide? Did it advance okay, Linda? It did? All right, perfect. So our tagline is protecting the people who feed the world, and we are a national nonprofit. We've been around for about 20 years. I was fortunate to help start the organization back in 2000 with primarily nurses who were based in Iowa, and they received specialized training in the field of agricultural health from the University of Iowa. And those nurses came together and said, we need continued support for the work we're doing. Farming is really unique in that there's a lot of occupational exposures, a lot of emerging issues. And so those health professionals, like I said, primarily nurses, were really the foundation of what AgriSafe is today. They helped form AgriSafe with the idea that we could do a better job of training health professionals in rural America to care for farmers. So you can see a lot of our programming is related to providing good clinical information for that rural clinician. We know chances are they probably didn't get much training in agricultural health in school. There's not as much training in rural health, let alone agricultural health. So that's very important to us that we can do the job for the clinician and getting them good resources. But we also have a presence in front of the farmer and the rancher and providing good guidance to them as well. So we really have two audiences with the work we do. So as I said, we are national in scope, and that's a really difficult thing to say because the nation is very large and agriculture is very diverse. And while one part of the country might be dealing with wildfires, another one might be dealing with floods, it really is really clear to us that the more hands on deck, the more boots on the ground of folks that can carry out our program and curriculum, the better job we're going to have to be able to serve farmers throughout the nation. And that is why we have developed what we call the Total Farmer Health Coach role. It's a really innovative approach to how we deliver or expand our services. So when I say Total Farmer Health, on our website, if you have a chance, check it out. You'll see there's a really colorful diagram that talks about the model, and I'll jump to the website in a minute. But basically, Total Farmer Health means that it's important that we look at the whole person, and it's modeled after Total Worker Health, which is an initiative under NIOSH, which is the National Institutes for Occupational Safety and Health. And Total Farmer Health basically factors in to say that in the field of public health, if we're going to improve someone's health or they're going to work towards better health, we can't just talk about direct hazards that we see, like a PTO shield missing or tractor as being a hazard. But what are the other hazards that can affect someone's health that we need to take into consideration? What are the support structures in place? Is there access to good health care? And so Total Farmer Health idea takes into account all the different social determinants of health that can impact someone's well-being. Are they getting the sleep that they need? Do they have a financial strain in their life and they're trying to cope with a financial impact with the farm? And so we purposely strategically named the coach role as Total Farmer Health because we know at the end of the day that if we have folks that are local providing good coaching expertise and carrying on a lot of our curriculum, that it may be that for that community, they're dealing with an opioid crisis that is very unique and they need to address that. While another community might have an emergent issue that might be natural disaster related. So we want to keep this holistic approach to how we deliver our services and our training. So we're looking at really creating a workforce of coaches throughout the nation that can help train on curriculums that we develop, that they become trained on, and then they can carry that forward. And then they can also be folks to leverage innovative partnerships. That's the foundation of what AgriSafe is about. We literally have unique partnerships that are different from state to state, but it's those champions, those people within those states that are passionate about serving the needs of farmers and ranchers that develop innovation and partnerships. So we want that coach to work with us to really assess what the community needs, making sure that they can really leverage great partnerships. And then of course, improve health literacy is an important piece, especially health literacy as it relates to those risks that farmers face. And finally, we want them to always advance their training in agricultural occupational health. And, you know, that's such a hard request, because it's like, you know, as we're getting grounded in information, good information for farmers, like what respirator to wear or how to prevent hearing loss, then there's a new threat that comes on board. And so AgriSafe is constantly in the mode of assessing, okay, what training do our staff need to be able to effectively serve? And we recognize that if we can train these coaches to carry out this information, we're going to have a greater reach. And that's really the idea behind the coach program. But we also know that that people, you know, will take years to get up to speed, and not everyone's as a coach role is going to be able to know all the information right from the start. So we're going to be mindful of what a coach is able to train on. So I'm going to go ahead before I skip to or jump to Linda, who's going to go ahead and share some thoughts as well, some slides. I just want to show you our website. So let me stop sharing for a second. And chances are y'all have already checked that out at some point or another. And let me find my share button again. Whoop. All right, here we go. Okay. So on our website, as I mentioned about the total farmer health, you're going to see when you scroll down that we have a section for farmers and ranchers and a section for health and safety professionals. That's consistent with what I had said earlier, that we really were formed by health professionals that said we need more guidance on how to serve this unique population. But we also know that we're an educational entity for the farmers and ranchers themselves. When we talk about, let me go ahead. I mentioned about total farmer health. This is what I was talking about before, and this is just a visual about the fact that there's so many different determinants that can influence somebody's well-being. And so the coach's role is going to really be to pull programming that really fits or matches the needs of the community, but also we have certain funding mechanisms that allow us to train on certain initiatives. So those will take priority as well. But this is just a general image that I want you to think in your mind about the coach, is that really it's not a sort of a one channel or one lane to say we want the coach to talk about sleep deprivation and work on that training. We really want them to be holistic in assessing what the needs are in the community. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to you, Linda.
Wonderful. Thanks, Natalie, for that. And I think I'm going to take my video screen down. So I'm coming to you from Nebraska. And of course, we're a balmy, I don't know, what are we, a minus something today here. And our broadband in rural areas doesn't always like to cooperate. So I'll take my video down and we will get started. Very good. See my screen okay?
Yep, you're coming in good.
Awesome. So why should you be a total farmer health coach? And as we were preparing for this presentation today, Natalie encouraged me to think back on my role and my history with AgriSafe. I am a registered nurse, and I have been a nurse for well over 3 decades. And part of the bulk of that work was working in a rural hospital setting. I am located on the eastern side of Nebraska. I'm also part of our 3-generational family farm. We are row crop farmers here in Nebraska. Our grown sons who have come back to farm with us, and and one has chosen the cowboy way of life, so to speak, and is on the western side of our state. And so we welcomed that third, actually would be the fourth generation of Emmanuels back, and are able to help them with their work. I grew up in agriculture, and I just, I could see some of the hazards that were happening, but didn't know quite what to do about it. And I had just accidentally stumbled across some continuing education through the University of Nebraska Medical Center's College of Public Health. They have their own ag medicine course through the Central States Center of Agricultural Safety and Health. And it was a 36-hour course that I took, and I was fascinated with it. And at the time, still working as a hospital nurse, bedside nurse, and looked into AgriSafe, and was very honored and grateful that I get to do this work now. So my work has switched from acute care to community health. And it's been quite a fulfilling step, and definitely great learning opportunities. As Natalie had mentioned, AgriSafe has an established reputation for over 20 years to organizations in evidence-based trainings to address those emerging and evolving health disparities that our nation's producers encounter on a day-to-day basis. And we're recognized by industry leaders. We're a nonprofit, so our work comes through grants, and we have great work with OSHA as well as the CDC. We work quite well with University Extension. Much of my work, my boots on the ground work, is working through ag commodity associations such as Nebraska Corn Growers and Nebraska Soybean Growers. And we have some great private industry partnerships with such as Farm Credit Services of America. And they believed in this program that we're talking about today, the Health Coach Program, as a pilot project. And from there, we have grown, and it's been come full circle, a full realization that this is what our regions of agriculture need. I can tell you what happens here in my corner of the state, and what row crop farmers, which we primarily are over here, what they need to be healthy and safe on their farms. But I could not tell you what goes on in other regions of the country when it comes to agriculture. So we view our community as our partner, and it is vital that we observe and address what is going on within those communities. We also address emerging issues. And this came whole big clear light to me when our community of North Bend, we're a small railroad town of 1,200 folks, experienced the effects of the bomb cyclone in 2019. Our town was completely flooded and many evacuated. I was part of the initial boots on the ground cleanup recovery process, and I, along with other leaders within our community, were tasked to help organize efforts for the recovery. Luckily, my husband and our family live on top of the hill that overlooks the valley that was flooded. And so we were not affected, but we did take in 20 folks, some friends and family who needed a safe place to stay while the flooding was happening, as well as during the recovery period. And I remember those initial days, those really rough, tough days, sitting alongside of the teachers and other community leaders within North Bend, thinking, what do my people need here in North Bend, and what are the resources that I can grasp quite readily to help them? Because they're not thinking about how to be safe and healthy during this process. They just want to get their homes, their farms cleaned up and get back to somewhat of a normal life. And so it was like the light bulb came on. I'm like, geez, we really need nurses who understand where to get those resources and understand what those hazards are when you have a natural disaster such as the flood. And so that's kind of where the idea kind of circulated in my brain that coach work would be a wonderful role to fill here. As Natalie talked about, we do take that research, and we call it R2P, which is research to practice. So we take that great research that's being done out there by a variety of universities and other institutions, and translate that into something that is meaningful, sticky, and digestible for the producers. And that, again, is what I love about my job. It's a holistic approach to care. We help the producer to minimize the negative impact of those farm stressors to help them achieve balance. And this is a balance that many times producers don't consider when they think about their work. It's also an opportunity for you, either if you work in public health or in clinical health, to experience some personal and professional growth. And we have a training process that we hope that we'll be able to stimulate great knowledge in the area of ag health, especially for our health coaches, what's on our forefront right now. And the bulk of our work is in mental and behavioral health. And we will give you the opportunity to achieve competencies through a specialized program. We call it the Nurse Scholar Program. Initially, it was designed for nurses, but now we've realized the impact it can have in other professional entities. And you will be asked to be trained on this program. And there is a test that's associated, a comprehensive test that goes with it. But upon that, then you'll be able to grow your own toolbox, so to speak, of various trainings that you can share with your community. So this lends into the next slide. We will give you the tools and the skills that you need to be confident in your role. There will be an onboarding process. You will be asked to complete a number of learning modules to help you understand the processes and expectations of being a total farmer health coach. Some internal things that we ask you to do, as well as those experiences of being a coach. I talked about the 20-hour credit course that is expected that you will be able to, that you will take, and we will provide that to you. And you can learn more about that Nurse Scholar program on our website. And this course will help you to increase your competency in prevention, identification, assessment of diseases, those conditions commonly experienced by people working in ag. And some of the examples of that would be topics in respiratory health, PPE, hearing protection, pesticide exposure, women's health, zoonotic diseases. And I'm just giving you a small smattering of those topics. And those topics are presented by folks that are experts in the industry. They've done the research, they've done the work to help us to understand, so that we can go forth and train our producers. And upon completion of that, you will receive a Nurse Scholar badge. And that badge is a nice icon and image that you can place in your signature line as a total farmer health coach. That signifies that you have a specialized knowledge base, that you have a specialty and expertise in the area of agricultural safety and health. So what's in that Total Farmer Health Coach toolbox? So we're going to give you a toolbox that will help you to feel competent and knowledgeable in those areas. Again, it's all evidence-based research. And we have within our toolbox right now some presentations that cover stress management. We also talk about community resources and what's available in those small towns to help folks to feel mentally and physically, but mainly how to address those mental health disparities that we know are part of our rural communities. We also will give you specific flyers and posters, that public media stuff that you need to reach out to your network. And it's going to take a little time for you to establish your network, to know what groups to reach out to in your area. And just speaking of my journey, I reached out to University Extension, and I'm part of a rural wellness team there. And so we share resources within that group. I've also reached out, as I said, to Nebraska Corn, Nebraska Soybean, have presented there. I've presented to Nebraska Women in Agriculture about our different OSHA topics within women's health. And these are just examples. It may look different for you, your area, as to who those groups are that you can reach out to share our trainings. And those trainings, again, will be all completed for you. So it's a matter of getting you onboarded, educated, feel competent, and you will have our support, of course, throughout this process. And then taking the trainings that are in that toolbox and then going out to share with your community. And Natalie will talk about the earning potential.
Great. All right. Thank you. I'm going to go ahead and get my slide here. Can you see my slide? Oh, maybe I'm not sharing it yet. Hold on a second. I think I'm sharing and I'm not. Let me find this. All right. We're going to try this again.
That was me, Natalie. I think you should have it now.
Yeah, hold on a second. Okay. Can you see it? My slide?
Yep, I can.
Anyhow, so the coach role is a role that is a contractor position with AgriSafe. it is a fee for service. So it's structured around training, and I'm going to go ahead and show you what that chart looks like. And the idea is that it's not like someone would be 8 hours a week with AgriSafe and there's a steady like contractor pay from X amount of hours. It's based on the professional delivering trainings and then getting paid for those trainings they deliver on. So sort of think of like if you were in sales and you were to sell X amount of goods, then you would get, a lot of people get commission based on sales. So the payment for the coach role is based on trainings being delivered, as well as work in doing things like going to farm events, farm shows, that type of thing. And we structured it in this way because we know that, and it really is ideal for someone who wants to start off and is not looking for like a full-time level pay, because it takes time to build up those relationships where, you know, people are requesting trainings or farm events, that type of thing. And so, you know, we realize that a lot of people wearing different hats, and that, you know, we have folks that are interested in teaching on our trainings in their communities. But again, it's not something that they can create right off the bat a full-time position with. Now, if someone is able to work within several states and they grow in the coach role, it could absolutely be something that could turn into a full-time position, and could actually even move into something outside of a contractor arrangement where the relationship with AgriSafe changes. But we don't have a limit in the number of coaches in a given state. So let's say in the state of Maine, there were 4 people that wanted to be coaches. We would invest, if the person is a good fit as a coach, we would invest in them as a coach. And when I say invest, meaning like giving them access to trainings and not charge for the trainings, helping them if they want to be a QPR instructor, which is a suicide prevention training, looking at their skill set and saying, okay, AgriSafe will offset the cost of the training by paying that investment. So you're not having to pay out of pocket for any training. And so I'm going to go ahead and just jump to the fee schedule so you can kind of get a sense of what that looks like. So let me just stop sharing here. I'm looking on a little Surface Pro here that sometimes, minimize that screen. Hold on a second. All right, I'm going to share this screen and see, hopefully you guys can see this good enough. If not, I'm going to show you where to find it too. So one minute. All right, so this is on the same page on our website that has information about, more information about the coach role. So if there's things you don't remember or whatever, this is all on this web page that I'm going to show you all. Also, the slide deck for this will be something that you can have access to after the meeting. But just to kind of give you an example on this, let's say we have a coach in Maine that is traveling an hour somewhere to go meet with at a farm show, and they're carrying out some training. We're gonna reimburse them for their travel based on federal GSA standards, which is basically, if you're a federal employee, that it's a rate that basically matches. Like if it costs more money to go to a hotel in Pennsylvania than it might be in California, it adjusts for that. So we follow the federal GSA standards, and we would cover travel for the coach. So there's nothing out of pocket with that, including mileage. So they jump in their car and they drive 2 hours, the mileage is covered, as well as travel time. And when they're traveling to an event, we also feel like that's work time, so that as a contractor, that would be covered as well for that time traveling. Now, what gets a little bit tricky to understand is how we pay for training. So let's say we have a training that we do on zoonotic diseases, and as a coach, the coach is trained to teach that. If it's an hour training, the pay is going to be higher. If it's less than an hour, it's going to be lower. You can see that structure here. The higher payment for presentation at peer review conferences and such, you see that at $250 if it's less than 50 people, and more if it's a larger event. the reason why that's a higher pay for the same amount of time, let's say it's an hour presentation, is because we know that it takes work to get accepted into a presentation where it's peer reviewed. So it takes a lot more work to get to that spot where you're accepted. And so the presentation reimbursement is higher for that. And then exhibiting are things like if there's a state fair or a county fair and it makes sense to go to that and present on mental health or whatever exhibiting, we'd be covering for the person's time as well as all the costs around the booth, the material. So that's what that's structured. And by the way, any of these trainings, whether it's virtual or in person, the virtual has a payment fee based on it as well. So while it's probably less work to, you don't have to jump in a car. If you do have to go on site, you're being compensated for your time traveling as well. And all of these details in the fee schedule, I would be the person to help answer those questions. And I want to be very transparent with everyone, because at the end of the day, no matter how much someone may be passionate about serving this population, people's time is worth something. And AgriSafe wants to invest in the coaches, so it makes sense. Now, the more, and this would be a coach starting off, so the longer the coach is with us, then they have the ability for their pay to increase based on the curriculum and such, because we'll pay more for someone who's experienced in these trainings. All the various trainings we have in a library, if there's a training that there's a cost, like for example, we have something called Farm Response. It's going to be released here in a couple of weeks, and that is a 3.5-hour training for professionals to help them be competent in these stressors that farmers face. We're not charging any of our coaches for that, because we don't want to make it hard for you to take the trainings that you need to do your job. Same thing as the example I gave was, if you were a good match for being a QPR instructor, which is a training program to help the layperson identify and refer folks that may be of help of suicide intervention. That's a $500 fee that AgriSafe pays out to the QPR Institute. We would cover that as an investment in you as a coach. So really the training of you professionally, what you're skilled to teach on as an instructor, is something that we would continue to have. We'd have a plan laid out right from the beginning. If you sign on as a coach, if we hire you as a coach, you would know, okay, the QPR piece is covered. We'd look at what the interests are that you're interested in training on. So this is a general fee structure, but it kind of gives you an idea of where we're at with the reimbursement. Now, the way to find this, let me just go ahead and get to the website so you can figure out where all this is located. Get to that. Oops. I had all these sites open and
Lots of clicking.
Lots of good. Yeah, I found it. I realized I had too many things open. Okay. So when you get to our website, you're going to find under current projects, you're going to see Total Farmer Health, and then off to the side, it's going to say Total Farmer Health Coach. And here you're going to see information. Today's webinar is going to be posted here. And then a lot of the same information that Linda and I went over, you'll see all listed here. And I'm going to show you about starting the process, but here's the same content. And down at the bottom where it says, what's the earning potential? If you click on that fee schedule, you'll see that there. It is one of the things that's mentioned on here is that there's flexibility in your schedule. So this is a really good fit for someone who, maybe they farm and they have an interest in doing this work, but they don't want to be locked down to every Friday, from 8 to 5, they have to be somewhere, but they want to be able to pick and choose what events or trainings they might go to. So it offers a lot of flexibility, and it is a contractor position, meaning that we recognize folks who are probably likely holding on other jobs as well. And by the way, while we're reviewing all this, please feel free to send questions in the chat box, so we want you to be able to ask questions. The next slide I was going to show you, and I'll just kind of jump to where this is on this page, is how to start the process. So if you're interested in learning more and being considered as a coach, the way to get started would be to come here and click on this link that says Get Started. And in this link, you'll see what we call Farmer Health Coach Interest Form. The first thing we wanted to make sure is that people that fill this form out, that they've either watched this on demand or attended the live event, because we think this will help answer a lot of questions. And so that we asked you if you've done that. And then you'll just have your contact information and just a couple sentences on why you're interested in being a coach and why you think you might be a good fit. And then we're interested in contact information for 2 professional references. We don't need letters from them. If you have that, that was fine, but it's best that we have contact information that we can follow up on. And then just to upload your resume. So this system allows you to upload the resume. And then also acknowledge when you're filling this out, a couple of things that we require for our coaches. One, and this is true for whether you're a contractor or an employee or even a volunteer with AgriSafe, that all of our contractors are required to be vaccinated against COVID as a condition of employment, and that waivers and exemptions will not be granted. So we want to be very transparent and open with that right from the start. And then also to acknowledge that we may conduct a background check as a condition of employment. And then there's a question box in here as well. So if you have questions and you're not really sure about some things. And the next step for us would be when we receive an inquiry like this, we'll get notified, and then Lynn and I and a couple other team members will take the time to respond back to you one way or the other, and let you know about next steps. And it is a very, I don't want to be cliche, but it is an organic process, because we really recognize that people bring such unique skill sets. And so if we have someone come to us that's interested in the coach role and they have a strong background, let's say they're a social worker in mental health, we're going to think strategically about their skill set and think, okay, could they help with that programming, and would that maybe be the first role that they might have? So we really want to learn about you as an individual so that we know how to best match it. We're a small organization, so we have about 11 staff, and we have some additional contractors, but the coach would be part of the team. So we definitely see them as an extension of our work, but in a way that's really important, because if we don't get out into the community and deliver these trainings and such, it's very hard to make that real impact. So I think I'm done with my presentation. I don't have any other.
You just muted yourself, Natalie.
Sorry about that. I muted the person wrong, but I was saying, let's see if we have any questions that came in here.
Yeah. And again, the chat box is your best way to submit questions. And or if you think of questions after this webinar, please feel free to use the interest form to push them on toward us. We have a really nice group today, Natalie. And you're muted, my dear. Purposefully, yeah.